Sacred Temple in Jesus, 7th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year A. Today is Sunday, the day of the Lord for Christians, the day when Catholics fulfill the third commandment to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Reflecting on the days of creation in Genesis will help us to understand what the Sabbath day was for the Jewish people and what it is now for Catholics. As explained by Robert Miller, Genesis states that on the fifth day, God recognizes all of creation as good. God declares creation good after God has created light, the sky, earth, plants, sun, moon, stars, birds, and sea animals. Then, when God creates human beings, male and female, according to God's image and likeness, God affirms men and women as very good. Finally, on the seventh day, God stops creating physical matter and, I quote, finished the work he had done. God finished the work he had done by creating one last reality, the reality of sacred space in time. We read, God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, sanctified it. Creation, as described in Genesis, therefore, undergoes three phases. After phase 1, God calls creation good. After phase 2, God calls the newly created human beings very good. And in phase 3, God creates a sacred period of time and calls it holy. So good, very good, and holy. The sacred period of time that God creates on the seventh day, Miller calls a temple in time. The door we enter into this temple in time is the evening when the sun sets. The door we exit from this temple in time again is when the sun sets after shining for 24 hours. Sunday is the eighth day that comes after the Old Testament Sabbath day, the seventh day of creation. Sunday is also the first day that comes after the Old Testament Sabbath day, the seventh day of creation. Around 2,000 years ago, God once again sanctified a sacred period in time. God did this in the person of Jesus Christ, who, like a setting sun, died on Friday and rose from the dead like the rising sun on Sunday, the first day of the week. Our new temple in time is Sunday, is when Jesus Christ renewed all of creation by his resurrection from the dead. Like the Jewish people, the setting of the sun on Saturday reminds us that we're entering into a sacred space in time, that we're to observe for 24 hours, strengthening our belief that Jesus truly rose from the dead, that life is stronger than death, since eternal life, Jesus Christ, cannot die, since Jesus is divine. During this sacred temple in time called Sunday, the day of the resurrection, we affirm our faith that truthful, other-centered love that is even willing to die for the other, is stronger than destructive, self-centered love that even may lead one to take the life of others out of self-interest. The second reading for today's Mass also refers to a temple, but in a different, complementary way as the temple of Sunday. St. Paul, in his first letter to the Corinthians, says that you are God's temple. As Brant Petrie points out, this you in this verse is plural. We collectively, as members of Christ's risen mystical body, are a sacred temple. As a living sacred temple, we can choose to destroy God's temple, as some Roman soldiers ripped apart Jesus' flesh with whips. They never succeeded in destroying Jesus' sacred body, since Jesus rose from the dead with a glorified body that we have been incorporated into by baptism. This intimate relationship with Jesus is to be intensified every time we receive the Eucharist and any other sacrament, for example, marriage, when a man and a woman become one flesh in a way that represents Christ's relationship with the Church. Today, may we ask for the grace to become more aware of the various temples God has created, the temple in time of the Old Testament, the new temple in time of the New Testament that we celebrate on Sunday, the risen temple of Jesus Christ, and the temple of the Church which we are members of and are united to Jesus Christ. Concrete signs that we're actively united to one another as a holy temple of true love in Jesus Christ are identified in today's gospel passage. These signs include forgiving offenses and loving one's enemies. God bless.